will now be recorded.
We are now all present and accounted for. Good morning. I would like to first off begin by acknowledging that we are on historic lands of the Kalapuya people, the Ampinefu and the Chemaho bands, the Kalapuya, who were forcibly removed after the Willamette treaties to Coast Range reservations to make way for white settlements. With that acknowledgement, I'd like to move on to introductions. I'm Dan Oshiro, Chair.
Like that one.
Nancy Wise, Commissioner.
Joe Kirby, County Administrator.
Vance Cronin, County Council.
Lillian.
Johan, Equity.
Oh, go ahead, Johan.
Okay. Johan, Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion Coordinator, UVA Program.
Lillian Noble, Board of Commissioners staff.
Teresa
Brian,
Farley.
Emergency Manager.
Teresa Farley, Board of Staff.
April Holland, Deputy Director.
Erica Milo, Board Recorder.
Kate Portia, Corvallis Benton County Economic Development Office.
Suzanne Hoffman, Health Department.
Stephanie Kurz, Board of Commissioners.
I see Kelly Losey from the Health Department, and we have two callers who've called in. Might you identify yourself? One is Brian Lee.
I think the other one is me, Commissioner. I think it's the boardroom, the Polycom.
Okay, Mr. Polycom, or Ms. Polycom. Thank you. We will move on to the next item on our agenda, announcements. I wanted to apologize for the fishing episode that caught many of you yesterday supposedly from me. Thank you for calling and verifying that it really was not me in any kind of trouble, and for doing the right thing. That was no fun. And I have no other announcements at this time. Does anyone else have any announcements?
Dan, I just had a question on the fishing. Is there anything we're supposed to do in the future, or is this episode taken care of? Trying to look at two things at the same time on my one little monitor, not very effective. I have some response from IT about this, but I have not had a chance to read it yet. It came in right before the board meeting began. Staff did exactly what they were supposed to do. They picked up the phone and called me. And that's the best recommendation. It looks like fishing and you're not really sure. So I did alert IT as soon as I knew about it. Joe has a comment as well. Actually, just underscoring what you said, Commissioner, typically the protocol is to immediately contact IT, make them aware of it. They usually have you forward it to them, and then make the other person aware of it. Stephanie and I picked up on it almost immediately and made IT aware of it. And then Stephanie reached out to Commissioner Oshiro, as well as I think other people did as well. But once again, it just goes to show that looking at the email address itself in particular is really key. Even though it showed Commissioner Oshiro's name like it typically does, looking directly at the email address, because you can tell that it was not a Benton County email address. Look closely.
Can I add? I'll add one little bit, which as a city councilor, it was like once a month that we got these phishing scams supposedly from Mayor Bick Traver, and so I wouldn't be surprised if it starts happening more now. It seems like once you're on their radar, they keep trying to target you.
Yep. This isn't the first time from, well, only sort of the first time for me personally. It's another variant.
Okay. Moving on from that, it's always good to highlight these episodes just because everyone needs to be fully aware of what they look like and what to do. So immediately contact IT and contact the sender as well. Thank you. So this is our opportunity for comments from the public. I don't think we have any, but I will ask just to make sure. Is there anyone from the public that would like to comment? Hearing no response, we will move on and review and approve the agenda. There are no changes to the agenda. There's no executive session after the meeting today. Just a quick reminder that we do have two service district meetings after the board meeting. They should be brief. And that's it.
I would move to approve the agenda.
Second. All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, the agenda is approved. Item 4, moving into our work session. First up is update from the Emergency Operation and Department Operations Centers, and I'd like to ask Brian Lee to lead us off.
Yes, good morning, everyone. So, quick update for the EOC response. First off, I just want to say happy 1-year anniversary. That was on Sunday for our COVID response. It's been a long haul, and we're still going at it. This year, we have been in some level of response for, I think it was 310 out of 365 days. So it's been a lot of emergency response between COVID, fires, floods, et cetera, So just congratulations and thank you for everyone's ongoing support for that. We're trying to finalize our staffing model here in the EOC, and we're focused on our move from the current location to alternate sites, since this building is going to be being remodeled. So that's a big emphasis this week. We have clinics Thursday and Friday. I'll let April give a little more details, but those are first and second dose clinics. And I do want to say congratulations to us per OHA dashboard. We are the 5th best vaccination rate in the state for counties. So again, a huge accomplishment. Everyone involved, it's been a huge effort, and we really appreciate it. Other than that, things are moving forward pretty smoothly, and I think we have a good plan, staffing plan, and clinic plans moving forward. We have some rural dates scheduled, and we'll keep you updated as we finalize those. In the report.
Thank you, Brian. Moving on, let's go to Suzanne.
Thank you, Commissioners. Good morning. I just want to call out what a great job in terms of a leadership partnership that Brian Lee and April Holland have formed in leading the EOC and the people that are working so hard there. They do an amazing job of staying on top of what feels like a million details every week in an ever-changing environment, keeping the team's morale up. And also want to commend them on the incredibly strong partnerships and relationships that they've formed with Samaritan Health System leadership and project management and emergency management, as well as Oregon State University. It is imperfect. We recognize that every single day because of the environment that we're in. But I want to commend the team under their leadership for continuously improving processes every step of the way, taking every bit of feedback that comes in and continuing to try to simplify and reduce complexity as we move out of phase 1A and into other populations. And I'll defer to April on the details.
Thank you.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, colleagues. Good morning, Joe. Yes, we have a lot going on, as Suzanne said. I have some good news to share with all of you. So the total number of doses as of today in alert, for Benton County residents is almost 17,000. That's 18% of all residents. We are getting somewhere. We're making progress, and it feels really good. As Brian said, we do have the 5th highest rate of vaccination per capita in the state right now. Thanks in large part to our partnership with OSU and Samaritan Health Services, and just really being able to use everything that we receive. Demonstrating that has allowed us to receive more. In terms of last week, we had almost 3,600 doses in total administered, including more than 1,300 first doses. This week, as Brian mentioned, we have a first dose only clinic on Thursday and a second dose clinic on Friday. Our rural clinics are tentatively scheduled in Alsea and in Monroe for April. Part of the reason for scheduling them out a little ways is we want to really conduct outreach into those communities. We also would like for the next groups for eligibility to have opened up to ensure that we're serving as much of the population as we possibly can when we're going out there. Looking ahead to next week's clinics, after discussion with Samaritan, we decided to open that schedule early to accommodate specifically our growing list of people who need outbound calls for scheduling. So the team here is spending a few days working on whittling down the list of now 600 people who require phone scheduling before we'll move ahead with sending emails on for self-scheduling. Because as you can imagine, once we send those emails out, the appointments go in a matter of an hour or two often. Some good news on the Johnson & Johnson Janssen vaccine. It's a little bit of a mouthful, but it's a good vaccine. We received notice yesterday afternoon that Benton County Public Health will receive 200 doses of this vaccine this week, and 100 doses each will go to each of our 2 Bimart pharmacies. So we're starting to come into a place where distribution out into the community will become more common. We'll have our mass site, we'll have vaccines out in many places for people to be able to be served. And of course, we'll continue to conduct outreach to vulnerable and hard to reach populations. Finally, I can't leave you without saying that we all did a little bit of a happy dance when we saw the metrics news from yesterday. Good Warning Week news. We dipped below 200. For our case rate, which is very promising. I ran the numbers for the last 3 weeks of data just to see that we've had a 35% reduction in the number of cases from January 31st to the week of February 14th. So every week there's been a sizable discount of about 20%. And then looking over that span, it's a reduction of 35%. So we're headed in the right direction. Our communicable disease case investigators and contact tracers are doing fabulous work. OSU is a wonderful partner. My overall public health message is that the end is in sight. We've got to stick with our measures, not because we're necessarily preventing the worst outcomes, but because we're almost to the finish line. We have got to keep this up for a while longer so that we can wave a celebratory flag in the not too distant future. We're getting there. Thank you.
Thank you. And how are we doing on all those special hires that we were adding into the mix in order to be able to have dedicated staff to address the vaccination push?
I think I'll let someone else speak on that. Thanks.
Yeah, I would defer to Lilia on the call center staff. I have the staff related to our volunteer coordination and site staff We have completed the position descriptions on those, and Danielle Brown is actually handing that off to me so that she can focus on some other things, and we should have interviews for those other key positions very soon. And a special thank you to Tracy Martineau and the HR team for all of the incredible support that they are continuing to wrap around this effort to help us move forward quickly.
Thank you for that update. Okay, are there questions for either April or Suzanne before we move on? Okay, next up is Lilia.
Good morning, Commissioners. So I'll just go ahead and start with the recruitment update since that's kind of where we left it off with Suzanne and April. That was a substantial portion of my time last week. So on Monday and Tuesday, over the course of those 2 days, we interviewed 12 people for the CSR, Customer Service Representative position, as well as the lead position. We have 5 roles to fill from that search. We came out of that search with, oh gosh, there's been some shuffling around. So we came out of that search with a confirmed candidate that we wanted to move forward with the lead position, as well as 2 CSR positions. We were happy to find out that one of the candidates that we were going to move forward with CSR accepted a position as a drug treatment court counselor, so still within Benton County, so that's great news, but won't be within our phone bank. So we have moved to another candidate on the list, very capable individual, really excited about that. In terms of the bilingual candidates, we have 2 interviews actually this afternoon with bilingual applicants, so hopefully we have a successful candidate there and we can move forward with recruiting at least 1 bilingual applicant. Also last week, we posted our 2 communication specialist positions. So that was not as time intensive as the interviews, but was a big lift, and I'm really happy to say that those got out and got posted. So all of the positions that I'm responsible for are at least underway with recruitment, and I echo Suzanne's kudos giving to HR. Eric Wolke has been instrumental for me to move forward with these recruitments, so many thanks there. Let's see, so let me transition over to my notes. Some other pieces that we were working on last week is we're starting to, you've heard a lot about staffing on the Bryan side of the house, on the EOC side of the house. The JIC as well, you know, has staffing challenges. What we have sought to do up until this point, or starting this point, to help overcome them is to do a bit of staff cross-training and then rotation within our JIC. Not all roles are as equally stressful, so that's a way that we're managing some of our staffing. So I'm really excited. Kelly Losi is going to get some more media relations and field experience this week. We started some of that last week and we'll continue into this week. Last week we did have a bit of change up within the Emergency Operations Center. Matt Weatherall was EOC director, and I think having a fresh set of eyes on some of our processes was a good thing. And so we evaluated a potential modification to our survey process. There are some technical limitations that we continue to experience, so we are looking at a potential change to that tool. So that was something that was underway last week, as well as moving forward with a handful of different communication strategies that we're pushing out on social media to try and increase vaccine confidence, as well as increase the community's trust in our competency with distributing the vaccine. So I am really happy to say that in, I think, the last 2 months almost since we have been activated, we certainly have seen a major swing from the community feeling like we're not, quote, doing anything, you know, about distributing the vaccine to now the community is very aware that we are doing many things to distribute the vaccine. Granted, they might not be happy with all of the things that we are doing, in particular some of our survey processes, but we are responding, and our community is aware. So that's really all that I have for this week. I'm happy to take questions.
Thank you. Are there questions? Commissioner Malone?
Excuse me, more of a comment, but I appreciate Brian Lee reminding us we've been doing this for a year, and I'm really impressed with the EOC operation and the JIC. I remember at the start there was one of our partners thought that we should, the EOC should be on a 24/7 schedule, and fortunately we didn't ever try that, and just figure out what we can do, and I think we're up to 3 EOC teams, and really asking our staff to step up, and they have, and just all the things that have been thrown at us, and I agree with your comment, Lilia, that time's coming, and things are, I think we're on a good trajectory, and look forward to keeping our vaccination operation going, and that some of the frustration that people have been feeling will melt away as we continue to do our job here. So a real thank you for everybody that's pitched in.
Thank you, Commissioner Malone. I really appreciate those words of support. Absolutely. And
Thank you. Are there any other?
Oh, sorry, Commissioner Ojiro. I just wanted to very briefly mention that one of the bigger tasks that we're going to be working towards this week, in addition to our vaccine clinics, is we're going to be participating in a collaborative community panel with the City of Corvallis and with Oregon State University on Thursday evening. So I just wanted to quickly mention that we will be working on preparing for that this week. I have a planning meeting midday today, and so yeah, just didn't want to not mention that.
Thank you for bringing that up, Lilia. Have we already put out the link information for that webinar?
So yes, but where is the better question. So yes, on Friday, I worked with Steve to get a draft release sent out, so I know it's up on our website, and we started pushing it out on Friday. I know that we were planning on making some social media events specifically for it as well. However, I had a much-deserved rest day yesterday, and so I am not wholly briefed with the rest of the team this morning on where the status of all of those different deliverables are. But I can tell you that they are on our radar and underway, potentially all completed or will be completed.
Thank you. When people have written in to me, I have let them know that I will tell them how to participate, and I need to follow through. So
yeah.
That's my interest in particular. So thank you.
I will make sure to send a direct link to the board and Joe and Vance. Actually, I'll just do it now so that you all can have that link to share if you need it.
Thank you, much appreciated.
Mm-hmm.
Other questions for Lilia, or questions about the Thursday night event? I suspect that when Steve Clark joins us, we'll probably pick that topic up again. So let's switch over to Kate Portia in the next few minutes before.
Good morning, Commissioners. Nice to see you. So I have just a brief update for you, and I think let's start with the good news first. You've already heard from your amazing public health people, but I think the warning week information that came down, Commissioner Oger, when you sent that last night, I audibly yelped with joy. And I know many of our businesses are doing the same thing. I will say, I think, Commissioners, you've been privy to many of the communications that our office has received, a large number of emails, phone calls with just a lot of worry, a lot of angst, some anger and frustration about Benton County status this last week in the extreme level, and just the challenge that they're facing with all of our being kind of the donut hole, all of our surrounding counties being open, restaurants, people going to Albany and other places, and yet in Benton County not. And I know you guys know that, but I'd be remiss if I didn't mention just kind of the toll that's taking on folks. And I think you guys, I know we are all feeling it. I feel like we're at the end of a marathon, and April said it so eloquently, just, kind of just one foot in front of the other and continuing on. So the warning week data was very, very welcome news. We've been working to, answer the emails, let folks know about the upcoming webinar, find ways for people to engage. We've drafted kind of a form letter that folks can use if they would like to engage. We're going to be finishing that up in the next couple of days. On some other fronts, we do, kind of at the federal level, you guys are probably aware, but they reopened the PPP loans for small businesses. And right now, it's really cool. Right now, they're focusing just on the small businesses. So businesses with 20 or fewer employees are really getting the focus. Basically, it started February 24th, running through March 9th. So if you know of any of those small 20 or fewer employee businesses, now is a great time for them to be applying for PPP. Also, since we're in the world of acronyms, let's go from PPP to PPE, hard to see with my mask on, but personal protective equipment. We are expecting another shipment from the state of Oregon. Our team is going to be getting that organized. I think, as you all know, but we've sort of commandeered the Madison Avenue meeting room here at City Hall across the street and have it spread out with PPE. And so we're going to be setting up pickup days where businesses can come in. Tentatively, that's looking like Fridays in April, where they can just swoop in, get what they need. We have a great system that Heather and Catherine have designed for contactless pickup of free PPE. We'll have more information on that coming down the pike. And lastly, I just wanted to say regarding the community panel that I know Lilia and her team are working so hard with Oregon State to get going on. I appreciate that. I think I'm going to have an opportunity to be a part of that, which I really appreciate, and being able to kind of share what Benton County has been doing to support our businesses. I think that's a really important message, letting folks know, that we hear them, we see them, and balancing, I think you had said it, perhaps Commissioner Ogerow, balancing the needs of keeping our community safe with the needs of keeping our economy vital also, right? I think we can accomplish both those goals in Benton County, and so just really excited to be a part of that. So that's the end of my report. Happy to answer any questions.
I really appreciate you helping get the word out about our new PPP loan availability from the federal government. And it's great that they focused on small business first this time around. Indeed. And look forward to more opportunities forthcoming for our businesses to help them survive as we get healthy. So appreciate all you're doing, Kate. It's been great to have your support out there as we address the needs of our businesses. You and your team. Thank you. So thank you. Any other questions for Kate? If not, we'll move on then to hear from Steve Clark from Oregon State University.
Good morning, Commissioners. I hope you're all well. Thanks for this opportunity to share a brief update with you and then respond to any questions or concerns that you might have. Let me provide just a brief update regarding our continuing strategies at OSU regarding COVID-19 testing. What I shared 2 weeks ago continues throughout the University in Corvallis. We continue to do weekly prevalence testing among 1,000 faculty, staff, and students each week. These are asymptomatic tests. We continue to do required weekly testing of all residents, all students on campus. That began February 1st and provides for about 1,400 students to be mandatorily tested each week. We continue to provide the voluntary weekly testing of members of Greek organizations, fraternities, and sororities. That's providing for about 700 tests on a weekly basis. Student Health Services continues to provide testing for symptomatic individuals, students who come to the Student Health Services Center or who are identified through contact tracing that we do among OSU students on behalf of the county or in collaboration with the county health department. So we continue to do campus and community water sampling, wastewater sampling analysis, and as you may have seen in the media, we're extensively involved in sequencing throughout the state of Oregon, not just within the Benton County communities. The work of contact tracing remains ever so vital. Isolation, quarantine would follow, and support. We continue also to do the promotion of public health and personal health measures and adherence to OSU policies and provide for student conduct matters as violations of the policies are investigated. Communications continues to be a very strong measure, both internally and externally, and as an example today, so we value that opportunity. Chair Ojero has probably expressed to you that we continue to work with City of Corvallis, as you'll see evident in the community town hall on Thursday night at 6, but also with work with Lane County, the University of Oregon, with outreach to the Oregon Health Authority, the Governor's Office, and others in state leadership about the importance of understanding how asymptomatic testing and the priority of contact tracing and quarantine and isolation following the identification of asymptomatic people being tested positive for COVID-19 is actually one of the best methods of public health that can be provided for a community. All the while, we understand that there's pressures on both the commission, the economy, the city council, frankly, the university. I take many calls a day regarding folks that are concerned about our current health conditions still being at extreme risk in Benton County. So Thursday's an important day. We have a community town hall on campus at 10 a.m. That'll be primarily about what the university will see ahead with COVID-19 vaccinations, with resumption of possible on-site activities next fall, but as well the kinds of things we're talking about today. At 6 p.m. we have the community town hall, a very important opportunity to not only share with community members but listen to concerns, questions, and comments. We're engaged in significant targeted student messaging within housing and dining services with the general university student body to members of the Greek organizations. As well, and after this meeting, for example, I'll be talking with health officials from Samaritan about what we're doing, and Dan and I talked with the Chamber of Commerce last Thursday. Everything we do seeks to complement the work and strategies of the Benton County Health Department. I'd like to share a little bit of good news. You may have been noting that already. We're seeing a decline in positive cases. That is wonderful. But at the same time, I would encourage all of us to be mindful of that while that decline, last week a 37% decline in the number of positive cases involving OSU students, the fact that I think it was yesterday or the day before that we had no positive cases in all of Benton County should not be taken for granted. We need to maintain our vigilance, our adherence to public and personal health measures, the efforts around testing. Where are we going forward? Let me share a little bit about spring break. Spring break, starts Monday, March 22nd. Probably the prior Friday as finals are completed for students, and we will engage in significant pre-spring break testing the week of March 15th. That Monday through Wednesday, all OSU students enrolled in Corvallis will receive an invitation to be tested by Trace OSU. That's form of prevalence testing. We will continue to do the required testing in our student residence halls. We'll provide prevalence testing for our faculty and staff, again, as we normally do, about 500 that week. We will continue student health center symptomatic testing and contact trace testing. And we'll continue to do on-campus and off-campus wastewater sampling and analysis and sequencing analysis. The week of spring break, we'll take a pause in testing as the majority of students are not here. The week after spring break, beginning March 29th, we will resume required testing of all students living in with residence halls. We will continue the Greek member testing and the prevalence testing for faculty, staff, and students, student health center testing, and wastewater testing and analysis. We're engaged in extensive communications around spring break travel. We're encouraging all members of the OSU community, and I would all members of the Benton County community, to not travel, to remain at home, to remain in your place of business or residence. But if you do travel, to follow CDC guidelines. And those are what we will be communicating within OSU is to be tested upon return and stay at home after travel. Specifically, get tested with a viral test, which is the PCR test that we use, within 3 to 5 days of travel. Stay home and self-quarantine for 7 days after travel, having been tested. Even if you test negative, if your test is positive, isolate, protect yourself from others and from getting others infected. If you don't get tested, stay home and self-quarantine for 10 days. And certainly avoid people who have serious health conditions. Happy to provide any responses to questions, and I so appreciate the opportunity to talk with you and share with you what we're doing, but also the continued work in collaboration with the Commission, the Health Department, and Joe and others. So thank you for that collaboration.
Thank you, Steve. Are there questions from Commissioners Malone and Weiss?
Not really a question, Steve, but I remember last fall and all the concerns from Benton County community about students and their potential effect on the health of the county, and I really feel like OSU took those concerns seriously and developed a robust program of testing and trying to make our student age population take this seriously, which I think everybody knows is quite a challenge. But I was saying earlier, we can get through spring break here and keep our numbers in the good range, and vaccination rates increasing. I think there's a real chance for a happy spring coming up.
Commissioner, thank you for your comments, and I do agree with you that all of us have taken this matter very seriously, and certainly the university has been part of that. I worry about the future, even with vaccinations. We are seeing through our sequencing the variant from LA as becoming more noticeable. What we see as Corvallis School classes resume on site and enrollment has been is yet to be seen. And I think all of us need to stay the course and repeat. And we will work with you as we do already, but around vaccinations to encourage and inform and promote. And I, like you, hope that spring will be a very much healthier period for all of us.
Thank you, Steve, and really can't thank you and OSU enough for the partnership when it comes to the use of research stadium, otherwise known as research clinic, for the mass vaccination site for Benton County, and also for supporting our emergency operations center move onto OSU campus for the duration of the remodel out at our building on 4500 Research Way. The partnership's been great that way. I am happy to hear about the spring break testing plans, and spring break is definitely been a nagging concern for me with the potential large influx or exodus and then influx of students and other community members in and out of town. So I hope that we can send that message loudly and clearly at our Thursday community meeting, that we're not completely out of the woods and that we need to be continuing to practice social distancing and masking, even if we do start opening up more. And I do believe that we can open our doors further for our businesses, but we have to continue to take all of these other basic measures very seriously. I'm also concerned about those virus variants that appear to be more transmissible. We don't know whether they're yet more harmful, but they certainly seem to have the ability to race through populations at a faster rate, and that's a threat to our health system. So we want to be very careful about that. I look forward to working with the governor's office and with Oregon Health Authority. I do believe we need to continue to advocate for metrics that take into account the testing intensity and the incredible surveillance and contact tracing and containment that we're doing to control the virus here in Benton County. So thank you for the partnership.
For sure, thank you very much, and we will continue to work with you and help inform the other counties in the state, as well as OHA and the governor's office, the importance of this. And, early on we did have metrics that took into account hospital beds, and I think that is a valuable way of analyzing whether or not everything we're doing is contributing to or providing for health, sickness or providing health. Fortunately, in Benton County, we have few hospitalizations associated with COVID-19. If I may, just one more point. A lot of fall sports, intercollegiate sports, did move to spring and winter. As I think you each are aware that student athletes, coaches, staff that are involved in these sports are tested with great regularity and there's exhaustive measures of contact limitations, attendance, and so forth. I think we'll see as spring arrives, work with the governor's office around that, not to release or reduce those measures, but possibly to, as we see the opportunity for spectators, possibly, somewhere at a distance and physically separated at a percentile of maybe in a outfield grandstand, 1/10 of some measure, but a lot of work has to occur before any of that happens, and it's all with the governor's approval.
Yes, and I think that, well, that's exciting, we also have to take equity into account, and would that still be allowed when we are in extreme risk here in Benton County, for instance, and our high school students are not being allowed to play high school sports? That's been a particular concern of many of our community members as the doors have been torn open finally for sports like volleyball, and our high school gals here in the county aren't allowed to play.
Exactly right. And it could be that as we hope that we will go down a risk level, or at some point 2 risk levels, it could be that OSU medical personnel who are associated with Samaritan Health Services could provide information and protocols that may be valuable to our high schools that would allow them to have not only opportunity to participate, but to provide for health measures that would be so very important.
That would be most welcome, I'm sure, for both high school students and their families who are so concerned about this particular matter, and as a matter of both physical and mental health. I do have one more question, and that is about OSU athletics testing. You didn't list that in the catalog of all the routine testing that is done by the university. Do you have information about the frequency of testing that's done by OSU athletics? Because that also feeds into our regular county numbers.
That is continued through July 1st to, and I could provide in writing what the cadence that is, but it's based upon frequency of contact and numbers of contacts. So, for example, if I'm a football player engaging in weight training, I'm tested, but I may not have physical contact with because we're out of season, and so that would not be possibly as great of a cadence as presently men's or women's basketball, softball, and baseball at this time, and so forth. But I could gather that information for the commission and provide that to you all.
I think some sort of an overall, an average would be, or a range would be useful, just to have a sense for the magnitude of that testing as it contributes overall to our testing intensity. We don't need to know the specific protocols because it sounds like they're complex and variable across sports.
I'll get that together.
Pat, go ahead.
Okay. A little earlier, Steve, you mentioned metrics, and I remember last spring, I think going from level 1 to level 2, and there were 4, I believe 5 metrics, and 4, then you moved into the better category, and in the discussions with the OHA and the governor's office, I think, you mentioned hospitalization rates, and that's, so it's a number of cases, but how many of those cases are in the medium and serious category, and how many are in the fairly light category, I think might be a useful tool to give us a better picture of what the situation actually is. All along, the concern has been the real serious cases and filling up our hospitals, potentially filling up our hospitals, from the numbers I've seen, we're in pretty good shape as far as that kind of metric. But I'm all in favor of keeping metrics simple, but maybe we've oversimplified things a little bit.
With efforts of Commissioner Otero and myself and others from University of Oregon and Benton County, Lane County, we'll share that observation of yours. And
thank you. Joe.
Commissioners, I just wanted to take this opportunity while Steve was on the phone to give you a brief update. Steve has
mentioned it on a number of occasions during his discussion this morning, and that is the status of where we're at with Lane County, University of Oregon, and OSU. As you know, our respective organizations met a week ago yesterday. Then our health department staff met with Lane County representatives on Friday of last week. And then this morning I had a meeting with the Lane County administrator. And basically what we're lining up for is Lane County and the University of Oregon are taking a shot at the first draft of the letter that will be asking our respective boards to sign, both for Lane and Benton counties, and that letter will request a meeting with the governor. They hope to have that letter finalized by the end of this week. Once that letter is drafted, they will share it with us and OSU, and we'll be able to provide our input, and then we'll finalize that and try and proceed forward. So I just wanted to give you an idea regarding timeline, despite the fact that we may be dropping into a lot lower risk category next week based on the warning week information we received yesterday. I still think it's vital that we move forward with the request to meet with the governor and to pursue our suggestion of adding additional metrics to how the risk levels are established. So I think after my conversation with the Lane County administrator this morning, I'm feeling pretty comfortable as to where we're at, where we're headed. I did encourage Lane County to continue to try and expedite the drafting of the letter. So Steve, I'll be in touch with you and over the course of the next couple of days as well. So that's kind of the status of where we sit right now.
Thank you for that update. Are there any additional questions for Steve? Thank you, Steve. We look forward to the joint forum on Thursday night. Do you have any final words?
Just thanks, and I do want to recognize Suzanne Huffman and April Holland and their respective teams. We cannot do all of this that we're all engaged in without their collaboration and their leadership. So many thanks to both of them.
Thank you. And I want to make sure I include the Joint Information Center, our JIC team, in that. Kudos as well. They're so critical to everything. Can't do it without all of the communications. So much appreciated, and we will see you again soon.
Thank you.
Oxford. Thank you. At this point, we will take a 5-minute break, recess, and come back for our regular business meeting. everyone. Begin our business portion of the agenda. And the first item on our docket is the consent calendar, which contains the appointment of negotiating teams for our two of our three unions, AFSCME and ONA, and the modification of our agreement with the Oregon Nurses Association to extend emergency COVID leave in accordance with the prior provisions, and approval of the January 19th, 2021 board meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion?
Move to approve the consent calendar.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
Would I need to pull one to ask a question about, or can I just ask? So I saw that Tom King was appointed to one of the boards. Are we still doing that?
A good question.
Commissioner Wise, Tracy Martineau is on the line and I think can address that question. I just up late last week, so I'll have Tracy comment on that.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you can do
Good
that.
morning, Commissioners.
It's because
I had requested an amendment to the agenda.
Actually, you are
If
too.
it's possible,
It's so when you've
because
done it right
didn't get that in
here,
until
like,
Friday. That was submitted too late
I can hear
to
you
make
typing.
a material change
Keep
and
the rest
the
of
information
it or
that you see. But Tom's name should be struck from the ONA bargaining team, and Suzanne Hoffman at this point will be the representative. My intention that by you designating me as the lead negotiator, I also have the flexibility to adjust the teams as necessary. And given that we don't know who would be available to take Tom's place in representing the FQHC, I would just like to move forward with that understanding.
I think that we should remove item 5.1 from the consent calendar so that we can modify our language of approval. So let's drop 5.1, and the consent calendar will only cover 5.2 and 5.3. Is there a second for that? Or a motion and a second for that?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. And now we'll return to item 5.1, the negotiating team. Can I hear a motion that will take into account Tracy's recommended strategy?
So moved.
Second.
Okay. Erica, do you have enough in the notes to capture the fact that we are recommending striking Tom King from the negotiating team and replacing him with Suzanne Hoffman, and clarifying that Tracy has the authority to appoint the full negotiating team as the lead as time moves on?
Yes, thank you for that clarification.
Excellent. Okay, all in favor signify with an aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Thank you, Tracy. I'm glad you were here to help us through that one. Moving forward. The next item on our agenda is proclamations, and I'm happy to be able to again bring Johan in front of us to help us proclaim March 2021 as Women's History Month.
Excellent. Thank you, Commissioner Sand. I'm very excited to have our next proclamation coming through for Women's History Month. It's a very exciting month to get started, and next week we will also have our inaugural Women's History panel. So we'll have the women of Benton County talking about their experiences. So I'll send an email about that. I'm just drafting it right now. But Lilia will be reading the proclamation because I wanted to have someone who has an identity as a woman to be the person reading the proclamation. So thank you, Lilia, for volunteering to do the reading, and I pass it to you.
Of course. Good morning, Johan. Good morning, commissioners. And it is my pleasure to read this month's proclamation for Women's History Month. So, in the matter of proclaiming March 2021 as Women's History Month in Benton County, The 2021 National Women's History Month theme is Value Women of the Vote, Refusing to be Silenced. Since 1980, the National Women's History Alliance has helped lead the celebration of women's history every March, and National Women's History Month began in 1987. In 2020, we celebrated the centennial of women's suffrage, and because of the pandemic, the 2020 theme has been extended another year with an additional focus on the important roles of multicultural suffragists and voting rights activists. The theme honors the brave women who fought to win suffrage rights for women and for the women who continue to fight for the voting rights of others. For only 100 years have women in the United States had the right to vote. And while white women gained the right to vote in 1920, women of color were intimidated or forced away from the polls due to poll taxes, identification laws, and literacy tests. Many Native Americans were unable to vote until the Federal Indian Citizenship Act of 1924. And we still see voter disenfranchisement across the country harming all people, especially women with intersecting, marginalized identities. But despite all of these challenges, women refuse to allow their voices to be silenced, even by a pandemic. In Oregon, we are fortunate to have a more accessible voting system through vote by mail and automatic voter registration. Despite the pandemic, around 75% of eligible voters cast their ballot in November 2020. It is through the effort of our predecessors that our current access to our voting rights exist. People of all genders of Oregon get to exercise their right to vote, and we have many women suffragists to thank. Abigail Scott Dunaway led the cause for women's right to vote in Oregon and is recognized for her outstanding work statewide. She collaborated with a multicultural group of women to push for voting rights, including work with Mary Beatty, or Beatty, one of the first Black women west of the Mississippi to advocate for women's suffrage. Their fight for voting rights faced many obstacles, including 3 failed votes for women's suffrage in 1906, 1908, and 1910. Oregon denied the right to vote to women 3 times, the most of any state. We must acknowledge this history in order to move forward towards more gender justice. In 1912, the women of Oregon achieved their goal and were given their rightful power to vote. This was achieved through collaborations with over 75 groups across the state, including Chinese American and African American leagues, farm groups, and men's equal suffrage leaders. We cannot forget the collaborations that made this possible and need to continue to have an intersectional approach to our work for women's rights, including clear support for trans women. With the right to vote, we also saw women begin serving in elected office. We have some amazing women of Benton County who have lived, worked, voted, and served in our community. Former Governor Barbara K. Roberts was born in Corvallis and is a descendant of Oregon Trail pioneers. As the first woman to serve as Oregon's governor, Barbara Roberts advocated for disabled, LGBTQ+, and children's rights. Last year, we celebrated the retirement of Benton County Commissioner Annabelle Jaramillo. We also saw the re-election of Chair Zan Oshiro and the election of our newest County Commissioner, Nancy Wise. They join a group of women who have made an impact on the development and support of our wonderful county. Women continue to make a monumental impact in our work and lives throughout the county. From working to address housing insecurity, to supplying COVID-19 vaccinations, to teaching virtually, running businesses, or supporting families, the women of Benton County today join the women in historical documents. So for the month of March, we celebrate the women who paved the way to voting rights and equity, and look forward to further progress for women and their rights, liberty, and prosperity in Benton County. Therefore, be it hereby proclaimed that March 2021 is Women's History Month in Benton County, and all residents are encouraged to join in this observance.
Thank you, Lilia.
I just had to clap. It felt like a clap moment.
Thank you for reading that, Leah.
Do we have a motion to approve the proclamation? So moved.
Second?
All in favor signify with an aye. 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 Okay. Thank you. Thank you, Johan and Lilia. We look forward to the panel on March 8th, International Women's Day.
Thank you.
This may be stating the obvious, but the 3 votes, or I guess 4 votes, that it took to approve women's voting, only men could vote. And I think that's why it took four tries to go over the finish line.
Yep. Thank you. Last year was a big year in terms of women's voting rights and recognizing that. It's also the anniversary of the founding of the League of Women Voters. So good anniversary to recognize. Next on our calendar is the public hearing, but we have a statement in our agenda that says that we'll hold our public hearing as close to 11 a.m. As possible. So I would propose that we handle our new business, and that if it's okay, we might want to recess our main board meeting and handle our service district business and then return to the public hearing. County Council, what do you say?
I think that sounds very reasonable.
Okay. We will be reasonable. New business. And point 1 is discussion and consideration to adopt a resolution regarding the renewal of our local option levy. Nick, take it away.
Thank you. I am here before you to present resolution R 2021-002 that is submitting to the voters in a countywide election a renewal of a 5-year local option levy to continue public health, safety, and other services. Would you like me to read the resolution in its entirety?
It's up to you. You're welcome to do so. I think that just summarizing the strategy and the main points would also suffice.
Sure. Well, as you are familiar with the Public Health and Safety Local Option Levy, it is a 5-year renewal. It is maintaining the tax rate that currently is in effect, which is assessed at the maximum rate of 90 cents per $1,000 of assessed value. This levy is a renewal. It will take effect in 2023. The resolution is before you today well in advance of that date, so that for 2 reasons. One, relative to timing to other ballot measures that are anticipated or scheduled in the coming months, as well as providing advance opportunity for planning, county planning relative to the Criminal Justice Systems Improvement Program and other matters related to the criminal justice system. The ballot attached to this resolution is Form FEL 801, which is a document required to be filed with the Elections Division, very similar to the at the L805, the ballot measure title that you previously approved in February. In addition, there is an explanatory statement. Just so you're aware, the explanatory statement is written to be consistent with the safe harbor language that we submitted to the Secretary of State and has been approved. So all language is consistent with safe harbor materials and language that we will be using in other documents. Finally, County Council is authorized to sign the forms and documents as necessary to place this measure on the May 18, 2021 election ballot. Today you have the option to approve these documents as submitted. They can be amended, they can be rejected outright, or the matter could be deferred to a later date. I would thank you. No further comments, but open to questions.
Any questions for Nick?
I don't have any questions for Nick, but I do have a question for the board. We have, I want to say, Nick, I think we have 14 days, the deadline that this has to be filed. The election law prohibitions regarding advocating for or against a ballot measure go into place once this measure is actually filed with the clerk across the street. So my question to the board is, knowing that the election law restriction will go up, would you prefer that I walk this across the street today, end of the week, on the 16th? What is your preference?
I think get it in on time, but maybe not much before the due date.
At this point, since we have safe harbor for the language that we have submitted, we are covered to that extent. I am not terrifically concerned about delaying getting the paperwork across the street, but there's not a rush either. We do need to have a measure number that would be helpful to have sooner rather than later.
So how if I do this? How about if I plan to take, if you vote to approve this, just, I don't want to be presumptuous, I will take it across on Friday morning. How's that sound? Okay, good.
Vance, also a question for you. Typically, you've sent out a notification to all of our employees within the county. When will you be sending that out as it relates to this being filed?
Joe, you must have been looking over my shoulder this morning, because I was revising that email this morning before the board meeting, and I plan to send it out either just before I walk across the street Friday or just after I come back across the street.
Great, thank you.
Yep.
I had a question for Vance and as well for the commissioner's consideration. So in the interim, before Vance files the documents, were I or others to respond to inquiries from the public or the newspapers relative to the local option levy? Am I correct that once those papers are filed, we need to be absolutely consistent in our response relative to safe harbor? And I'm bringing this up as a point that if we have more flexibility for longer, if that can be tolerated, it is actually potentially beneficial. It is somewhat onerous to reply to some of the inquiries and have to reference every one of those replies in the context of the safe harbor language that we've used and approved. But if that's your wishes, it can be done. I just want to point out that it adds another layer of rigor to any responses that you read.
Vance?
Well, I guess that was the underlying rationale for my original question. When would you like me to file? Obviously, the longer we go before filing, the longer we have to respond and communicate without concern that we may be violating election laws. Once the measure is actually filed, stamped in, and given a ballot measure number, all the election law restrictions fall into place. So again, it's up to the board whether you want to go as long as possible without having to worry about election laws, or whether you want to get this in and allow the PAC to do its thing with a number that it can disseminate. So again, that's why I suggested Friday is sort of a kind of intermediate ground. It's highly unlikely that we would be in position to do anything over the weekend, that Saturday, Sunday. So really, the election law issues come into play beginning that following Monday. And one other thing I would note regarding the safe harbor language, to me it's far less about the safe harbor and much more of a concern about how Benton County employees communicate about the measure. We don't have to use the wording that was approved by the Secretary of State's office for the flyer, but we may not utilize language or take a position that gives the impression we are advocating for or against the measure. So I just want to be clear that it's broader than the safe harbor concept.
I think the Friday, taking it in Friday works. That's a good kind of in between. And I personally would like to get the measure number. It's helpful for me to have it in the work that I'm doing with the PAC. So.
Okay, Friday it is then. Assuming you all vote to approve this.
Can I move the resolution?
Please. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Pat, I'm assuming you said aye?
Aye.
Thank you. So the measure passes unanimously. Thank you. I appreciate all the work that you have done, Nick. Thank you, Vance.
You're welcome.
And Lilia and your team. Okay. At this point, given that we are still far from 11, this board meeting will stand in recess, and we will shift over to our county service district. And let me pull up that agenda.
Cascade View.
Okay, I will now open the Cascade View County Service District Governing Board meeting. And Erica, just checking in with you, are you ready for that?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Are there any comments from the public? The next item on the agenda is the consent calendar containing appointments to the advisory committee, the budget committee, and approval of the June 16th, 2020 meeting minutes. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar?
Question. Sorry, since there are minutes, I'm not voting on the minutes, is that correct? So should we pull the minutes and separately do it? So
Yeah,
I moved,
certainly.
I guess I moved to pull the minutes from the consent calendar.
Well, okay, so actually the chair can pull the minutes, and then you can
Okay.
move to approve the revised consent calendar.
Okay.
I will remove the June 16th, 2020 minutes, item 2.3, from the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion for approval of the remaining items?
Move to approve items 2.1, 2.2 from the
Second.
All in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Now we will take up item 2.3. Do I hear a motion to approve the meeting minutes from June 16, 2020?
So moved.
Second. All in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
And
Aye.
and
Thank
Eric,
you.
Commissioner Wise has abstained from that vote.
Thank you, Dan.
And are there any items for discussion under other? I see that Public Works Director Gary Stockhouse has joined us. Okay. Then, with no other business to address, the Cascade View County Service District Governing Board meeting is adjourned. And we will move on to the South 3rd Street meeting, if I can find the agenda. Okay. The South 3rd Street County Service District Governing Board meeting is now open. Are there any comments from the public? Hearing none, we'll move on to the consent calendar. I will remove the item 2.3, the approval of the July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes from the consent calendar. Do I hear a motion to approve the consent calendar as amended?
So moved. Second.
All in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Moving on to item 2.3, approval of the July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Move to approve July 7th, 2020 meeting minutes.
Second. All in favor, signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. And I'll note that Commissioner Weiss has abstained. Moving on to other. Hearing no other discussion, the meeting of the South 3rd County Service District Governing Board is now adjourned. Okay. And sorry, dealing with my little tablet screen, trying to get back to our meeting agenda here. I'll be just a moment. Okay, so we are back to our business meeting, and we are half an hour early at this point for our public hearing. Vance, are we okay to proceed?
We are, but I don't see either Greg Verrett or Daniel Ray.
Oh, okay. Then we shall, Joe, have you been in contact with either of those gentlemen?
Commissioner, I can reach out to them here momentarily if you want to just give me a minute. Just a point of clarification, when was the public hearing actually advertised for?
Hearings are heard at 11 a.m. time certain or as soon thereafter as the matter may be heard. So we could postpone until 11, take a break until then?
So I thought we were required to wait until the time that was actually posted.
If the language of the notice says 11 o'clock or thereafter, then we do have to wait to 11. If it says as near to 11 as possible, then we have some flexibility leading up to 11. I mean, I hate to be super technical, but it really does depend on the work. I do. I know it's inconvenient for a lot of folks.
I think you can jump in. She's on here and she can share with us how it was advertised.
I think we need to wait until 11 based on how the agenda is framed. But Teresa, why don't you jump in?
I was just trying to notify Greg and Daniel, and of course they both say that they are away from their desks. So I'm not. where I could try them on their cell phone and see if we can get a hold of them.
Teresa, the main question is what the wording in the advertising for the public hearing is, and whether it uses the same language as in the agenda. The hearings are heard at 11 a.m. time certain, or soon thereafter as may be heard. If that's the case, then we will be again in recess until 11 a.m.
Sam? Good. The public hearing is going. Are you tapping in? Okay, there you go. Bye. My apologies. Daniel just called me at the same time. So he is on his way to link in, and I am looking for that information while he's tapping in, so I'll be right with you.
Okay, so hold on, everyone. We may be taking a half-hour break. We'll find out shortly.
This reminds me of what used to be a common phrase in the 70s: communication breakdown.
I had a additional item on proclaiming March Women's History Month and the vote. I think Oregon was 6 years ahead of the national giving women the right to vote. We had a fairly brief progressive era, Governor Oswald West, who figured out that because people drove on the beaches, that made them highways, and the state owns the highways, and that's the origin of public ownership of all the beaches. And he also did prison reform, and so there was kind of a brief flurry of progressive activity. Maybe we can do that again sometime.
I do not have a copy of the hearing notice that was to the public, but Daniel is on, so he should be able to give you that information. Daniel, they're looking for the time that the hearing was noticed in the newspaper.
I actually don't have that information on hand. I know that Linda Ray had sent that out, but I can try to get that information for you right now. I'm sorry about that.
If it makes a difference, if it makes a difference, I mean, I think my preference would be to just wait until 11, just to be on the safe side and for consistency and optics and all that.
And I think
I would agree.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think, though, that as we're moving forward, this might be something to consider, how we actually word the notice in the newspaper for the public hearing times, because with your change in format, I think this is going to become more common that the actual time spent in the business meeting doesn't coincide with the time set for the hearing. So either, and I'm not saying change the wording, but I'm just saying you might want to talk about whether you want to be firm in your timing for hearings or whether you want to have the flexibility moving forward. So food for thought.
Thank you, I would agree. So unless there's further discussion at this point, I would propose that we recess and reconvene at 11 a.m. for the public hearing. Thank you all. getting close to 11. Okay. Thank you all for being so prompt. Okay. It is now 11 a.m. The Board of Commissioners for Benton County are resuming the business meeting for 2nd of March 2021. We are now taking up item H1, a public hearing in the matter of first reading of the proposed amendments to Chapter 23 Solid Waste Management of Benton County Development Code. Daniel Reddick and Greg Barrett are here to present to us. Go ahead and begin.
Thanks, Commissioners. Good morning. I will let Daniel do most of the presentation here, but just wanted to remind everyone that we had a work session on this in February, and the ordinance that is attached to your packet reflects changes that were discussed at that work session. And I'll let Daniel take it from here.
Thank you, Greg, and good morning, Commissioners. I did want to point out that it looks like in the packet there may not be the red line version of Chapter 23, and if you wish, I can share my screen with the red line version that highlights some of the detailed changes. And I can also review those with you without sharing my screen if you'd like.
What is the sense of the board? Would you like to see it, or is a verbal description sufficient?
It might be good in case there is anybody. I don't see too many people watching here, but if someone's watching on Facebook, maybe they'd like to see that information.
Sounds good.
All right, thank you. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Can you see that okay?
Mm-hmm.
All right. You're welcome. So I'll just go over some of the changes that have been proposed for Chapter 23 so far. The first change that's present throughout the document is just reflecting the shift for the solid waste program from the Health Department over to the Community Development Department. So where Health Department is referenced, those are largely replaced with Community Development. Another update that we've made, I'm going to scroll through here and try to find examples. Another update that we've made is simple word choice updates. It was pointed out during the last work session that words like ensure should be changed to words like ensure. So we made sure to carefully go through that and make those changes as needed. Next, we updated word choice for gender neutrality. For example, where the document said his designee, we simply removed the word his in those instances. Next, the section 23.025 on the Solid Waste Advisory Council membership, we updated to reflect the newest bylaw updates that were made, which essentially removed the geographic requirements for membership for that advisory committee, and we wanted to reflect that change in Chapter 23 as well, so we removed the references to the geographic membership requirements. And the next change that was made, sorry for scrolling here, is in section 23.420. The subsection 4 was removed in this document, and that is largely due to the change in the way the franchise and host fees are being collected as part of the newest franchise agreement for the Coffin Butte landfill. And due to those changes, we had to make an update with the Section 4 outlining the use of those fees. And during the latest discussion on this during the work session, it was advised that we should remove this subsection 4 entirely. And I believe that is the bulk of the changes that have been proposed so far. And I wanted to also turn it over to County Counsel and Greg Verrett if you have any additional comments about these changes.
Daniel, I just have one really picayune comment. On item 4 that is being deleted out of 23.420, I guess it is, please do not take out our reference to the prior ordinances. That gives us our legislative history on how this particular ordinance, this section has been changed throughout the years. Thank you.
Thank you. I'll make sure to leave that in there.
Perfect. Thank you.
Greg, any comments?
Yeah, no, I was just checking the version of the ordinance that you have in your packet, and that parenthetical at the end of subsection 4 is deleted in that version, so we will be sure to get that back in. It's not substantive text, it's reference, but it is critical. So we'll get that back in there. And just for everyone's benefit, the reason for removing subsection 4 was to give the county more budget flexibility in how the funds are used, rather than specifying that they be used only for solid waste management purposes, which is obviously still a priority for the county as we've discussed, but not, that program should not get all of the funds generated by this franchise fee. So that's all I have. Unless you have questions of us.
Are there questions? Okay. Then at this time, we will open it up for open up the public hearing for public comment. Is there anyone who wishes to comment on this amendment to Chapter 23, Solid Waste Management? Hearing no public comment, I will entertain a motion to move forward.
I move to conduct the first reading of ordinance 2021-0300, amending Chapter 23 of the Benton County Code.
Second, but question, do we have to say anything in there as changed or as amended in the meeting to leave that wording in?
No, as Greg pointed out, it's not substantive, it's just a legislative history. So no, but that's a good question.
Okay, great.
Thank you, Nancy. All in favor of conducting the first reading, please signify with an aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay. Vance, is this one that we need to actually read?
It is indeed. And is
okay.
Would you like me to read?
You probably have it on your screen, whereas I have to scroll and change screens, so please.
Before the Board of County Commissioners for the State of Oregon for the County of Benton in a matter of amending Benton County Code Chapter 23, Solid Waste Management, Ordinance Number 2021-0300. Now, therefore, the Board of County Commissioners of Benton County ordains as follows. Short title, amending Benton County Code Chapter 23, Solid Waste Management. And as per usual with Benton County ordinances, We will come back for a second reading of this ordinance on March 16th. It will become effective 30 days from March 16th. There does not need to be a public hearing on March 16th to conduct the second reading. It can be slotted on the agenda as old business.
Okay. So with that, I will close the public hearing. And if there's no other business, we will also adjourn the board meeting. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Thank you.